Here.
Kim Crawford.
Here.
April Fabella. Here. Ronnie Maines.
Here.
Jason Payne.
Here.
Jen Smith. Here.
Okay, we have a quorum on July 15th, 2025. I'll call the meeting to order, and I welcome everybody. If you've not already done so, please sign in, and we appreciate that. I'm going to ask Jason Payne do the invocation, and then followed by a pledge of allegiance.
All right, let's go ahead and pray. Thank you, Lord, so much for another day of life. Thank you for the opportunity to come here and to serve and to go about the business of our city. Pray that you continue to guide us, direct us, give us wisdom, give us your favor and all the things that we try to achieve here, and just continue to bless our city and help us to continue to move forward in a great direction. Thank you so much for tonight, and just bless our time together. In Jesus' name we pray, amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, you may be seated. Okay, some announcements we will do. For those of you who do not know, we are looking for a zoning administrator. You'll see the ads are out. They're on our website. It's a full-time position. We are accepting applications until, I think it's Friday the 18th. We also have, coming up, I lost my place. We have, hold on, the county fair is the 27th to the 28th to the August 2nd. Can I see it? I lost my place. And then, I thought there was one more.
There is, it's before us, before it. There we go.
Back to school bash for Williamstown School, which I believe is August the 8th from 5 to 8 p.m. That time of year, and looks like fun. They'll be featuring food trucks, games, and more. So if you have a student at Williamstown School, please do yourself a favor and stop by. I also want to reiterate that the ARC has the 40 days and 40 nights of their concerts, which start on July 29th at the ARC Encounter. And I think that's it for announcements. I do want to give a little bit of an update for everybody. Just a couple of things here. First off, last meeting, the question was on the occupational payroll tax, which we're going to have a first reading today. I was asked how much that 0.5% was worth, and the number I gave was inaccurate. So I wanted to set the record straight. The 0.5% for the year is $185,000 plus dollars, and the ordinance that we're proposing, I am proposing, would start January 1st. So it'll be approximately half of that for the first this year, 25, 26, but on an annual basis is about $185,000. I just want to clear that up. I also want to make sure that everybody, there's a ordinance there's a statute that the legislature passed regarding street legal special purpose vehicles, which allow municipalities, counties to effectively have you seen these, I guess they're like anything from a golf cart to a quad or a vehicle like that. They're called street legal special purpose vehicles. The statute the state passed allows counties and cities and municipalities to allow them, if they're registered and they're legally being ridden by someone who has a legal license, to operate on roads. The county is having a reading tonight, and they'll have their second reading on August 5th allowing these street legal special purpose vehicles to be allowed in the county. It would not, it's unincorporated, so it would not affect Williamstown unless Williamstown passed an ordinance allowing it also. So I am letting everybody know that, we don't have to discuss it tonight. If it was decided that that's what we wanted to do, we would pass an ordinance to do it, otherwise it would not pertain to us, but it would be legal in certain areas of the county, like Dry Ridge could do it, Crittenden could do it, Corinth. And I'm not sure if everybody's aware of that. I was made aware of that a few weeks back, and then Chuck Dills sent this yesterday to everybody. There was a issue at the marina past week. Mark Cummins went to work and its dock was starting to float down the lake. It was coming off where it's secured to land. I didn't go far, but he pushed it back, but we did have to do emergency repairs. I don't think they're completed as of today, but I did go ahead and authorize that, just so you are aware. It was at $2,800 in emergency repairs.
Is that the brand new dock or?
Well, it's the one on the right that was,
Oh.
I think, built in 2011. Also on the lake, the dredging, as I told you about last meeting, nothing new on that. Apparently each individual homeowner on the lake has to get their own dredging permit. I think that's gonna take them a while. I did meet with Tom Hutchins, as we talked about, regarding the signage for obeying the rules on the lake. Him and I met with, and Derek, so we're gonna get about 4 to 6 signs made, posted around, and the bigger one that's gonna go on that new pump house that was built. So everybody's aware of actually, some of the state statute laws, and it'll be posted. I know there was a complaint. I think, Ronnie, you brought it to Derek's attention at Splash Park. The picnic tables were pretty bad as termites. So we ordered 3 new picnic tables. We contacted the Terminator to get rid of the termites. We've ordered some large trash cans to go outside, and some smaller ones to go into the laboratories.
Okay.
So I think, for now, that helps.
Have the tables already been ordered? Do we go with wood again, or?
No, we went with that new kind.
Okay, good.
Yeah. Just something I didn't discover it, Randy discovered it about an hour ago. So I asked Brandy we're working on a checklist for when developers come in, whether it's a 2-story apartment or a subdivision. So if someone's looking for, permits or what the process is, we're going through this checklist where you can get it, so you meet with who you meet with, what do you need to have, so people aren't just guessing. Well, while we're doing this exercise, and we were looking at the capacity fees, if you will, for water and wastewater, we discovered that the ordinance that the council passed this past February, and basically that change was from, on these fees, instead of having 6 months to pay the fees, they were due up front, if you remember, that was never published in the paper, and it doesn't officially become law until it is. So that was under the previous administration. And the next meeting, I'll put that on the agenda where we can just re-ratify or recertify, if you will, and then we'll have it published, if everybody's okay with that. And then I will direct you to the superintendent's reports that were in your packet. when you received them, I'm assuming you went through them. The only one you did not have was the clerk's report, which should be in front of you right now. In the clerk's report, among other things, you will see a up-to-date budget tracker ending June 30th, 2025. So last year's information that the clerk's office has been working on since May, it looks like it's 99% put together and complete. So Crystal and Lisa and others worked very hard on this for the past 2 or 3 months. So I just want to make sure you all saw that. And then on top of that, you should get a tracker with the 25-26 budget. You'll have that in your next meeting packets. We're hoping to get that completed by the end of this week, if not sooner. Is that correct, Lisa?
Yes.
So great job to Lisa, Crystal, the whole team in the clerk's office, Vivian who helped. That was a huge job done, and thank you. The other reports are in your packet, and I didn't know if anybody had questions about my report that I just gave or the superintendent's reports. Give you a couple of minutes just to look through your notes that you made.
Has Roy Osborne indicated to you, Mayor, when he can anticipate that cable expansion build out Baton Rouge Road that he's been working on for a period of time?
He has not, but I know we're close. He's ordered, if you look at, I believe, that report, he's ordered a lot of the new pieces,
Okay,
but I can get back to you on that, Kim.
fine, thank you. I've had some neighbors down the road ask about it, so I told them I would ask.
Farns Road, you said, right?
Baton Rouge.
Baton Rouge, I'm sorry. Any other questions, concerns on the reports, whether it be mine or the superintendent's?
I saw on the water, just that they felt like what they were using to treat the zebra mussels, it wasn't very effective,
Yeah.
so.
That was the 1912. We are going back to the peroxide, which is working. We just need to be careful of the doses. And I also will tell you the issue with the zebra mussels, for some reason, is completely less than what it was at one time. They're still there. But on that subject, just so you know, we are still looking at this rural development grant or a KIA 1.5% loan for the project. We've had to resubmit the project. We had to take off, there was 2 pieces to the project. I forget the second piece, but that's no longer there. Working with Northern Kentucky Ag, so we've got the paperwork just about all filled out, and now it's a process. And Timmy's been very good. We've sent him pictures. We are still, our main issue right now is the request for qualifications for an engineer. We're in that process. We should be completing that hopefully within a week. And then we're gonna wait. Now, I did a two-prong approach. The KIA loan, or preferably the rural development grant. Because obviously the grant we don't have to pay back. So we're going down two lanes right now, and then we'll see where we end up. But the 1912, did not, it worked, but not anywhere near where we thought it was going. Oh, we were hoping for, or Timmy was hoping for. Anyone else? Okay, then I'm gonna let that go. Correction, we're on to old business, correction and approval of minutes for regular council meeting July 7th, 2025. They were in your packet. Hopefully everybody's had a chance to read through them. And then I'll wait for a motion to approve or correct. Anyone?
I make a motion, Mayor, that we, accept the minutes from the July 7th meeting as presented.
We have a motion by Councilor Smith to approve the Williamstown City Council meeting minutes of July 7th, 2025. Is there a second?
I'll second it, Mayor.
Second by Ronnie Maines. Any discussion? Roll call?
John Coleman,
Yes.
Tim Crupper.
Yes.
April Favela. Yes. Ronnie Maines.
Yes.
Jason Payne.
Yes.
Jenna Smith.
Yes.
Okay, motion passes, thank you. And on to new business. This is the first reading of the ordinance to lower the occupational payroll tax for the city, in the city of Williamstown, from 1.5% to 1%. Mr. Morgan?
Thank you, Mayor. This is for the City of Williamstown, Kentucky, ordinance 2025-11. An ordinance of the City of Williamstown, Grant County, Kentucky, amending ordinance 2023-07, Chapter 110 of the Code of Ordinances, whereby levying the occupational license fee on employees for the privilege of engaging in work activities within the City of Williamstown, Kentucky, and for health, safety, welfare, and convenience of the inhabitants, residents, and citizens of the City of Williamstown, Kentucky. Whereas the City of Williamstown, Kentucky, home rule city and governmental entity, existing under chapter and acts of the statutes of the Commonwealth of Kentucky, so providing services municipal to its citizens, residents, and all persons within or coming within the limits of the city, all of which require the use of city revenues from the city's general revenues and other dedicated funds, and whereas the City of Williamstown has determined that it requires additional revenues general by which to continue to provide municipal services to its citizens, residents, and those other persons within or coming within the corporate limits of the city. and therefore under the authority of Section 181 of the Constitution of the Commonwealth and KRS 92.280 subsection 2, it intends hereby to raise additional revenues by the levy and imposition of an occupational license and licensing fee system on employees, with all revenue and monies generated thereby and therefrom being dedicated to the general fund of the city of Williamstown. Be it hereby ordained by the city of Williamstown as follows. Section 1, ordinance number 2023-07 and section 110 of the Williamstown Code of Ordinances are hereby amended as follows, with the words and numbers being added, indicated by a single solid line beneath them, and the words and numbers being deleted, indicated by a single broken line through them as required by KRS 83A.060 subsection 3. So there will be a new, section 1 has been struck. A new section 2 will read as follows. Dedication of revenues. All monies and revenues generated by the occupational license fees levied and imposed by this ordinance shall and the same are hereby dedicated to the general fund of the city of Williamstown, Kentucky, as shown upon the budgets of the city, so adopted and approved by the city council of the city of Williamstown. Old section 2 is struck, and new section 3 reads, administration. This ordinance shall be administered by the city of Williamstown, Kentucky through the principal offices of its city clerk/treasurer or other designated or specified city employees, personnel, agents, or designees. The city of Williamstown, Kentucky is hereby authorized and empowered to engage or employ other persons or agencies as it deems necessary or administer and enforce the herein ordinance. The prior section 3 is struck. A new section 4 reads, effective date of ordinance. The requirement of an employee occupational license and the imposition of an occupation licensing fee upon employees established and fixed hereunder, and the new language will read, with the occupational license fee shall be effective January 1, 2026. And the prior language is struck, shall be effective as soon as possible according to law. Old section 4 is struck. A new section 5 will read, requirement of an employee occupational license. For the right and privilege to be, a new language, an employer, strike employed, or engage in any manner of work activities as an employer, whether self, the word or, so it says whether self-employed, and new language, or employing other persons within the limits of the city of Williamstown, Kentucky, there is hereby and hereunder established that all such employers, and striking the words and employed persons, going back to the same ordinance, will read, obtain from the city of Williamstown, Kentucky, an annual employee occupational license, unless specifically exempt under this section. The employer that is not required to withhold, report, and pay the occupational license tax is the federal government, including the United States Postal Service. The payments required to be made shall be made quarterly for the periods ending March 31, June 30, September 30, and December 31 of each year. Employers who are not required to withhold, report, or pay the license fee must annually, during the month of January of each year, make a return to the occupational tax administrator in which is set forth the name and social security number of each employee of the employer during the preceding calendar year, giving the amount of salaries, wages, commissions, or other compensation earned during such preceding year by each such employee. This list shall include all current full-time employees, part-time employees, temporary employees, and terminated employees, whether the termination was voluntary or involuntary. Old section 5 is struck. A new section 6 will read, levy of employee occupational licensing fees. And new language will be added to the ordinance saying, for the right and privilege to be an employer or engaged in any manner of work activities as an employer, whether self-employed or employing other persons within the limits of the city of Williamstown, Kentucky, the employer shall pay an occupational licensing fee of 1%. And then going back to the old language of the previous ordinance, 1% of all wages, salaries, commissions, or other compensation earned by such employee in the city for work done or services performed or rendered with the city of Williamstown. Previous section 6 will be struck. A new section 7 will read employer's duties and responsibilities. It shall be the duty and responsibility of an employer having employees subject to the herein occupational licensing and occupational licensing fee provisions to withhold the herein employee occupational licensing fees due hereunder from the employer's employees' compensation had or derived from work activities within the city of Williamstown. On the forms and returns provided by the city of Williamstown, timely remit and pay unto the city of Williamstown all such occupational licensing fees due to the city for the employer's employees' work activities with the city of Williamstown. Cooperate with and provide the city of Williamstown with additional data and information germane hereto as may be required by the city in order to administer the herein ordinance. Prior section 7 should be struck, and new section 8 reads, making of return and payment of licensing fees. Each quarterly return shall be made by the employer and filed with the city of Williamstown no later than close of business the last day of the calendar month following the end of the reporting quarter. For purpose of meeting the deadline requirement of this section, postmarks are not acceptable as proof of compliance. All payments of employee or occupational licensing fees due under the employer's return shall be made and remitted by cash, credit card, business check, certified check, cashier's check, or money order made payable to the city of Williamstown. The prior section 8 is to be struck, and a new section 9 shall read confidentiality of records and information. All returns and records of employer and employee, including the names and identities of employers' employees, shall remain confidential and not be subject to public inspection, review, or duplication, except the amount of monies paid for occupational licensing fees under a return is deemed to be a public record subject to public review and inspection under Kentucky's Open Records Act. Prior section 9 is to be struck. A new section 10 reads, inspection and audit of employers and employee records. For cause, the city of Williamstown shall have the right to inspect and audit the records of an employer and employees to ensure compliance with the ordinance and ensure due and full payment of all employees' occupational licensing fees due hereunder to the city of Williamstown. To substantiate the employer's returns made for a calendar year or any part of a calendar year, the employer shall be required to file and attach a Form W-2 and W-3 to the return for the quarter ending in each December of each calendar year. Prior section 10 is struck. A new section 11 reads penalty and interest for late filings. Subsection A, any and every employer who fails to file a return or pay employees' tax on or before the due date prescribed herein shall be subject to a penalty in an amount equal to 5% of the tax due for each calendar month or fraction thereof. The total penalty levied pursuant to this subsection shall not exceed 25% of the tax due. However, the penalty shall not be less than $25, and in addition to the penalties prescribed in this section, any business entity or employer shall pay as part of the tax an amount equal to 12% per annum simple interest on the tax shown due, but not previously paid from the time the tax was due until the tax is paid to the tax district. A fraction of a month is counted as an entire month. Further, every tax subject to the provisions herein and KRS 67.750 to 67.790 and all increases, interest and penalties thereon shall become, from the time as tax due and payable, a personal debt of the taxpayer to the tax district. The prior section B is struck, and that had read, penalties, civil or criminal, and sanctions for other actions, violations, or non-compliance. Instead, a new section B is to be added, reading, in addition to the penalties prescribed in the section, any business entity or employer who willfully fails to make a return, willfully makes a false return, or willfully fails to pay taxes owing or collected with the intent to evade payment of the tax or amount collected or any part thereof shall be subject to civil and or criminal sanctions and or liability. And then struck guilty of a Class A misdemeanor. The prior subsection D is deleted. A new subsection C is to read, in addition to the penalties prescribed in this section, any business who willfully fails to make a return, willfully makes a false return, or willfully fails to pay taxes owing or collected with the intent to evade payment of the tax or amount collected, or any part thereof, shall be subject to the imposition of a stop work order, a revocation of their business license, and the disconnection of any and all city-provided utilities. The following sanctions contained in this subsection may be imposed upon violators beginning 10 days after the date due, tax due and payable. New subsection D is to read, any person who willfully aids or assists in or procures, counsels, or advises the preparation or presentation under or in connection with any matter arising under KRS 67.750 to 67.790 of a return, affidavit, claim, or other document which is fraudulent or is false as to any material matter, whether or not the falsity of fraud is with the knowledge or consent of the person authorized or required to present the return, affidavit, claim, or document shall be, and the new language is included, shall be subject to civil and or criminal sanctions and or liability, and then the prior language is struck, guilty of a Class A misdemeanor. New subsection E reads, a return for the purpose of this section shall mean and include any return, declaration, or form prescribed by the tax district and required to be filed with the tax district for the provisions of KRS 67.750 to 67.790, or by the rules of the tax district, the herein ordinance, or by written request for information to the business entity for the tax district. Prior subsection G is struck. A new subsection F reads, no present or former employee of any tax district shall intentionally and without authorization inspect or divulge any information acquired by him or her of the affairs of any person or information regarding the tax schedules, returns, or reports required to be filed with the tax district or other proper officer, or any information produced by a hearing or investigations, insofar as the information may have to do with the affairs of the person's business. The prohibition does or any other infraction of the tax laws or in any way made a matter of public record, nor does it preclude furnishings and a taxpayer or taxpayer's property authorized agent with information respecting his or her return. Further, this prohibition does not preclude any employee of the tax district from testifying in any court or from introducing as evidence returns or reports filed with the tax district in an action for violation of tax district laws or in any action challenging a tax district's tax laws. Subsection A of subsection F reads, any person who violates the above or the subsection by intentionally inspecting confidential taxpayer information without authorization shall be, the new language reads, subject to civil and or criminal sanctions and or liability. And the prior language is struck, fined not more than $500 or imprisoned for not longer than 6 months or both. Prior subsection 11 is struck. A new subsection 12 reads, definitions. As used herein is set forth in KRS 67.750, 67.795, and used concerning matters of and germane to occupational licensing and occupational license taxes. Unless the context requires otherwise, the following words or terms shall have the following meaning. Business entity, each separate corporation, limited liability company, business development corporation, partnership, limited partnership, sole proprietorship, association, joint stock company, receivership, trust, professional service organization, or other legal entity through which business is conducted. Compensation means wages, salaries, commissions, or other form of remuneration paid or payable by an employer for services performed by an employee, which are required to be reported for federal income tax purposes and adjusted as follows. A, include any amounts contributed by an employee to any retirement, profit sharing, or deferred compensation plan, which are deferred for federal income tax purposes under a salary reduction agreement or similar agreement, including but not limited to salary reduction arrangement under Section 401 sub A, 401 sub K, 402 sub E, 403 sub A, 403 sub B, 48, I think that might be 40, it should be 408, 418, 414H, or 457 of the Internal Revenue Code. And B, include any amounts contributed by an employee to any welfare benefit, fringe benefit, or other benefit plan made by salary reduction or other payment method which permits employees to elect to reduce federal taxable compensation under the Internal Revenue Code, including but not limited to sections 125 and 132 of the Internal Revenue Code. Employee means any person who renders services to another person or business entity for compensation or its equivalent under an express or implied contract and who is under the control of directions of the latter, should be control or directions of the latter, including an officer of a corporation and any other officer, employee, or elected official of the United States, a state political subdivision of a state, or any agency or instrumentality of any one or more of the above, and so including temporary, provisional, casual, or part-time or outsourced employees, workers, or employment. A person classified as an independent contractor under the Internal Revenue Code shall not be considered as an employee. Employer means, as defined by section 3401 of the Internal Revenue Code. Fiscal year means, as defined by section 7701 of the Internal Revenue Code. Gross receipts means all revenues or proceeds derived from the sale, lease, or rental of goods, services, or property by a business entity reduced by the following. A, sales and excise taxes paid, and B, returns and allowances. Internal Revenue Code means Internal Revenue Code in effect on December 31, 2016, and any applicable amendments made thereafter. Person means every natural person, proprietorship, firm, organization, association, congregation, undertaking, venture, joint venture, company, corporation, administration, agency, government body, or unit, or other entity. Whenever the term person is used in any clause prescribing or imposing sanction or penalty in the nature of a fine or confinement or imprisonment, and the word is applied to any association or entity, shall mean the partners or members thereof, and as applied to a corporation, the offices and directors thereof. Tax district means a home rule city, county, urban county, charter county, consolidated local government, school district, special taxing district, or any other statutorily created entity with the authority of levy gross receipts, net profits, or occupational licenses taxes. Taxable year means the calendar year or fiscal year ending during the calendar year upon the basis of which gross receipts are computed. Occupational license fees, occupational tax, and payroll tax means for the purposes of this ordinance, and related documents shall have one and the same meaning, may be used interchangeably, and are separate and distinct from business license. The prior section 12 is struck. A new section 13 reads severability. each section and each provision of each section of this ordinance are severable, and if any provision, section, paragraph, sentence, or part thereof, or the application thereof to any person, license, class, or group is held by a court of law to be unconstitutional or invalid for any reason, such holdings shall not affect or impair the remainder of this ordinance. It being the legislative intent to ordain and enact each provision, section, paragraph, sentence, and part thereof separately and independently of the rest. The ordinance shall be effective as soon as permitted as a matter of law. A line for David A. Henson, the mayor, City of Williamstown, to sign and attest by Crystal Fryman, the chief clerk treasurer. Mr. Mayor, one thing I do want to go back to on page 5 of this ordinance. This would be on the prior section 10, new section 11, under the prior section G, new section F. The 6th line down, it begins with the word business, period, and then says the prohibition does or any other infraction of the tax laws. Clearly, there's some
Something
typo
Yeah.
there, or some word missing.
Got it.
What I think the intent of this is that the prohibition does not affect these tax laws. And so perhaps this had been in the prior ordinance, so I'm just trying to, certainly, the way I'm looking at this right now, what's the language missing is the prohibition does not it's difficult for me to kind of put this together, because there's a couple things going on here. The prohibition does, the way it reads now, prohibition does, or any other infraction of the tax laws, or any way made a matter of public record, nor does it preclude furnishings and a taxpayer or taxpayer's property properly authorized. So one thing is, I think rather than saying property authorized, it should be properly authorized agent with information with respect to his attorney. So I mean, what I take from this is the sentence is designed to help a taxpayer get whatever information they may need for their accountant or whatever,
Okay.
for them to do their taxes. But it also does not make this a public record.
Would it read, the prohibition does not preclude any other infraction of the tax law? Is that the way it properly should be addressed? And the reason I say that, if you go down 4 more lines, it almost says the same thing again. Further, this prohibition does not preclude any employee of the tax district. So is whoever the author of this previous ordinance was, should that prohibition does not preclude any other infraction? Does that make sense?
No.
The whole paragraph honestly doesn't make any sense at all, if you want to know the truth about it. It's written in your all's language.
Well,
Mr.
indeed. And I'm a big fan of removing legalese from such documents, to make things clear. How about, I think it's just the prohibition, going back to how I see this intent, the prohibition does not make these records in any way a matter of public record, nor does it preclude furnishing in a taxpayer's properly authorized agent with information respecting. So again, the prohibition does not, and then strike, or any other infraction of the tax laws, and comma, and strike or, and then it picks up does not in any way make, as opposed to made, a matter of public record. Make these records. So it's preserving the integrity and the confidentiality of the tax records. Doesn't make them public. It specifies that unless a person comes in with, some need, like their accountant, need it for their tax bill.
And they can access that.
And then they can get it.
Okay.
So let me, you want me to read it again here?
In its entirety?
Starting on page 1. No, I'll read this section here, 6th line down, subsection F, on page 5, beginning with the word business, period. The prohibition does not, so this is how I recommend it be written. The prohibition does not in any way make these records a matter of public record, nor does it preclude furnishing and a taxpayer or taxpayer's properly authorized agent with information respecting his or her return.
Got it. All right.
Okay.
Thank you, Luke.
Yes, sir.
Just wait, you gotta read this again. Okay, it's the first reading, so we don't have a vote or a motion. If there's a discussion, I'm fine with opening the discussion. If anybody would like to do that.
As far as this ordinance there, Mayor, I appreciate the fact that you have brought that to the attention, as was mentioned in our last council meeting, that as I said before, it's really a good, clear message to people who work in the city, that we lower our payroll tax to encourage more people to work in our city. It's, as I said in the last meeting there, especially our schools, our city employees, county employees, it's clearly showing a message that we want to help them by lowering this because, our budget has reflected that I think we can conservatively collect less and still be efficient. And as you mentioned before, that the county wants to do the same thing, January 1, over 0.5%. So it's a good team effort that even I've heard from even my own employees. They're encouraged, they're excited about. At least we're going in a direction that helps them. And that's one of the biggest complaints I've heard since, when the payroll tax was even come about, we needed to do it to get on board. And I respect that and understand and supported it then. But we also agreed and talked about then we may potentially lower it, and we've really kept that commitment. So there again, I appreciate you bringing it to the table so we can have that done in a timely fashion for January 1. That's my thought on it.
Thank you, Mr. Carpenter. Anyone else like to comment? Okay. That is, I'm sorry?
I said my piece last time.
Okay. All right, that is all we have for agenda items. If there is nothing else, then I would accept a motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
I'll second it.
That was quick and easy. Made by John Coleman, seconded by Ronnie Maines. Discussion? Roll call?
Sean Coleman.
Yes.
Tim Prepper.
Yes.
Caitlin Cavella. Yes. Ronnie Maines.
Yes.
Jason Payne.
Yes.
Jen Smith.
Okay, adjourned. Thank you.